We're gonna get our herb garden going. So this is a little raised bed I had started setting up earlier this year, and I just hadn't quite finished it. So we went ahead and finished it today, filling it. We just lined the bottom with cardboard, and that's to suppress and kill out any weeds that are under it, and then filled it up with some dirt. And we're gonna get everything planted. Now I didn't have time this year to get all of my herbs started, and a couple of the ones that I had started, they got a little too dry out here last week. So I went ahead and got some from the local nursery. If you're local to Green, I highly recommend the corner store. I've gone to them for years and absolutely love them. Here's a look at what we got from them.
Silly froggy. He's kind of crying.
Where'd you find him?
Over there.
What was he under?
A rock.
Under a rock. That does tend to be where he looks like he wants to jump, doesn't he?
He's a good little froggy. Cute. Wanna know why I think froggies like?
Where are you gonna put him? Maybe back in the woods? We're back under that rock you found him under? I've unpacked everything we got here. In the front is our lavender. We're going to use that as a hedge along our chicken coop. We've got a lot of different varieties of mint. Mint you have to be careful with. It's really best to container garden them because they will take over any of your herb gardens, or if you put it anywhere. We're going to plant ours along the side of a building where we'll be mowing along the edge. So anything that does try to spread will just get mowed down. We got some rosemary, some thyme. I thought these were really, really pretty. I would again butcher the name, so I'll put that down in the comments. But we got two different types. Really am loving the colors. Although I really don't need more tomato plants. I just couldn't resist the urge to try two different varieties I had never heard of. Chives, some oregano, cilantro, and parsley. I'm trying the curled parsley. Growing up, we always did just regular parsley, but cilantro and parsley look very, very similar. So if these two merge together, I would like to be able to tell them apart. And I think for us, that's probably going to be the easiest way for it. Some basil, dill, and then a bay tree. It's not really a tree, I guess it's actually a bush. So we're gonna lay these out in the garden bed back there and kind of decide how we want to put them. Certain of these things get, like rosemary, can get really, really big. You can trim it back so it stays nice and small. But we're gonna lay it out, see if we like it how it is, and then we're gonna get these planted, hopefully before it starts raining. I think I've got it laid out how I wanted. It ended up being a much larger bed than I realized. So I'll go over where we've got things and a little bit of why. We've got the rosemary in the back here. That's gonna grow big and bushy, so I want that to the back so it doesn't shade everything else. We've got basil I'm gonna do in front of it. I'm also gonna direct sow a couple of these just to help fill in those spots. Most of them will fill in naturally anyways. In the back here, we're gonna do some German chamomile, and we're just gonna line that in between these two. We've got some stevia. I'm gonna do that, direct sow that. Our curled parsley. And I'm going to do two different types of chives. I went through some of my herbs and found some Chinese chives, so I'm going to direct sow those in the back. And then I've just got regular chives. I'm going to plant those in the front. And all of these will grow and spread and kind of fill in everywhere. We've got our cilantro. I've got some pearl yarrow I'm going to do in the back. And then I'm going to fill in this spot in front of it with stevia as well. We've got our bay, and I'm going to surround that with dill in the front. And then for fun, we're going to try this toothache plant. I've never grown it before, but it kind of looked like it would be fun and a medicinal type herb. So we'll see how they do. I'll show you once we get them all planted. From here, all I need to do is water it down. Hopefully you'll get some herbs going at your house. You don't have to start with all of them. You can always start with just one or two, and they can all be grown in containers, so you don't feel the need to have a massive raised bed or anything like that. You can start in a kitchen window or just outside on your porch. We got a couple questions from y'all and wanted to go ahead and address those. So the first question we got is, how old is our house? So our house was built in the 70s, so it's not that old, but we are remodeling it. It was built in 2 phases. Back then you were allowed to build a basement and then add on and build the actual, the second story or the house portion later. And that's how this house was built. We're mostly just going through and fixing the layout to kind of suit our needs a little bit better. For us, a bigger kitchen was kind of a mandatory, and just kind of rearranging the room so it suited our lifestyle a little bit better. The next question was, did Jonathan build the pantry?
Yep.
The next one was, how many acres do we have?
We got 47 acres. It's about half wooded, half field. It's on the side of a mountain, so we got a couple creeks that run down, some bottom land with some hay fields, and the rest of it's second growth, hardwoods, and some pines that were planted probably about 30 years ago.
The next question was, do we homeschool? And yes, we do. We homeschool 4, so that's what takes up a good portion of my day. And the last question was, are tomatoes safe to can? So you can can tomatoes. There's a lot of controversy over whether it's safe to water bath can them or to pressure can them. Here in the U.S., our regulation says that you're supposed to pressure can them. However, in every other country, you're allowed to water bath can them. So as you're going into canning foods, I think it's really important you kind of do your own research and decide what is really best. I mean, I know with the regulations, if you're going to sell tomatoes in the U.S., you obviously would need to pressure can those. But for your own use, that's completely up to you. We pressure can ours because that's how I was raised and how I was taught, so I don't have any issues with that. If you look at what other countries' regulations are in comparison to what the U.S.'s are, you find out some really interesting information. Like that in the U.S., it's illegal to sell washed eggs. Or unwashed eggs. You have to wash all eggs before you sell them, with the exception of hatching eggs. In other countries, it's the opposite. It's illegal to sell washed eggs. So some of those are just interesting to read up on and study to make your decisions. For us, the USDA, they only recommend things that have been tested. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of money in home preservation for them, so they don't test many new items. So what they currently have is not much different than what they had years ago. But if you get some of the older, like the Presto canners, a lot of those have older manuals, and if you get that, you'll see a lot of information in there of what was canned 30 and 40 years ago that is no longer recommended, that hasn't really been tested, so we don't really know. So again, I would just recommend that you do some of your own research and decide. For us, I'll let you know for anything we share, whether it's USDA approved or not, but I, again, would just encourage you to look it up yourself as well. I think that's all of them. Okay. Is there anything else we should say? And that was all of them for today. If y'all have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or send us a message. We'll probably do this every now and then, not that often, but if you have any, we'd be happy to address them for you. Good enough? All right, thank you. I know that was miserable for you. It was very visible.